There's a harsh truth most people never dare to face. You're not lacking intelligent talent. You're simply learning the wrong way. Think about it for a moment. Why can some people learn an instrument in a few months, speak a new language in a year, or build a business from scratch while so many others keep trying and stay stuck in the exact same place? We're quick to conclude they're just gifted or lucky. But that's just a beautiful excuse to hide a deeper truth. They know a method you were never taught. Not in school, not in college, not in any online course. Overborn years ago in Japan, there existed a powerful system that turned ordinary farmers into legendary warriors and average craftsmen into masters whose work lasted centuries. A system not based on talent, but on learning the right way from day one. The Japanese called it Shuhari. And once you understand Shuhari, the way you learn will change forever. You'll no longer be the person who starts 1,000 things and masters none. You'll become someone who can master anything you choose, exactly when you choose. But there's something you must know before we continue. Shuhari isn't for people who love shortcuts. It's for those who truly want to become exceptional. If you're ready to hear something your ego won't like, let's continue. Before we dive deeper, if you enjoy content about self-development, psychology, mindset, and the philosophy of life, make sure to subscribe to the Life Philosophy channel and turn on notifications. That way you won't miss any lesson that could genuinely transform your life. And leave a comment below. What is the one skill you're committed to mastering in the next 3 years? I'd love to read your journey. Part Note. The problem with modern learners. We live in a time where information is everywhere, yet depth is almost nowhere. With just a few taps on your phone, you can watch hundreds of tutorials, dozens of courses, and thousands of so-called learning hacks. And yet, ironically, people today feel more stuck than ever when trying to learn something new. Most of us fall into the same loop again and again. We start a new skill full of excitement, hit the first challenge, lose motivation, jump to something else, and fail again. After repeating this cycle enough times, we arrive at a painful but false conclusion. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm just not talented. But that's not the truth. You're not failing because you lack ability. You're failing because your brain has never been taught the way true masters actually learn. Today, we're addicted to the feeling of starting, the thrill of buying a new book, the excitement of signing up for a new course, the fantasy of imagining ourselves playing piano beautifully or speaking English fluently. But the moment we reach the hard part, the repetition, the boredom, the ego-crushing fundamentals, we quit. The problem isn't the skill you chose. The problem is how you approach that skill. Modern learners share one extremely dangerous habit. They confuse knowing with mastering. Watching a few gooder videos makes them think they get it. Reading a couple of articles about business makes them think they understand it. Scrolling through educational TikToks makes them feel smart. They have the map, they've never walked a path, they have knowledge but not skill. Information but no depth. And the worst part is, they don't even realize they're learning the wrong way. If you observe people who never improve, you'll notice 3 common patterns. They jump from skill to skill based purely on emotion. When it gets hard, they switch paths and think that's the smart choice. They consume knowledge instead of training ability. Watching another video feels productive, but in reality, it's just procrastination. They want creativity before they earn consistency. They want a unique style before mastering the basics. And eventually they conclude they lack talent, when the truth is they've never stepped onto the actual path that leads to mastery. If you look closely at fast learners, musicians, athletes, programmers, entrepreneurs, you'll notice one common trait. They do not start with creative with obedience. They don't dabble randomly. They follow a system, the very system that leads to Shuhari. And to understand why they advance while everyone else stays stuck, we need to meet Yamato, the young man who spent years trying to learn alone, failing miserably until he encountered the master who would change his life forever. Part I. The fateful encounter with the samurai. One ordinary afternoon, just like all the others, Yamato took his wooden sword and walked to the forest behind the village to practice. He repeated the same strikes he had been practicing for an entire year. Heavy, clumsy, and lifeless. He knew he was weak, but he didn't understand why. He tried hard, yet nothing improved. And then, at that very moment, a deep voice broke the silence of the woods behind him. Your stance is wrong. Your footing is wrong. Your breathing is wrong. Everything you're doing is wrong. Yamato spun around. Standing behind him was an older man with silver hair tied back, deep scars carved across his face, and 2 real swords resting as waist, a true samurai. Yamato felt heat rush to his cheeks, an overwhelming mix of shame and fear. Sir, I'm just trying to teach myself. I have no master." The samurai didn't respond. He simply circled Yamato slowly, observing every detail. The way he gripped the sword, how his knees twisted inward, how his shoulders lifted from unnecessary tension long. The samurai asked. 1 year, Yamato whispered. "And have you improved at all?" Yamato couldn't answer. His silence the most painful answer of all. The samurai sighed quietly, then snatched the wooden sword from Yamato's hands. "Do you know what your real problem is? You think you're training, but you're actually carving mistakes into your body. Every wrong repetition teaches you how to fail more efficiently." Those words cut deeper than any blade. A whole year of effort, all wasted, not because he didn't try, but because he tried in the wrong way. "So what should I do to do it right?" Yamato choked out. "I've studied strategies. I've memorized classical techniques, but every time I hold the sword, everything falls apart." The samurai interrupted him sharply. "That's exactly your mistake. You tried to build a castle starting from the roof. You want creativity before mastery. You want to fight before learning how to stand. You skip the most important thing. The path." He looked Yamato straight in the eyes, firm, unblinking but not unkind. "There is a path to mastery. You cannot skip them. You cannot rush them. Anyone who tries will spend their entire life stuck in mediocrity." Yamato swallowed hard. "Then what are the 3 stages?" The samurai answered with 3 simple words, words powerful enough to shape the course of a lifetime. Shuhari. Shu means obey. Ha means transcend. 3 stages, 1 destination, true mastery. Yamato felt as if something inside him had awakened. He dropped to his knees, eyes burning, not from pain, but from a fragile mix of humiliation and hope. "Please teach me." The samurai was silent for a long moment, as though weighing the fire in Yamato's heart, deciding whether it was real or just the temporary spark of youth. "Fine," he nodded. "Tomorrow at dawn. But prepare yourself, because the first stage will destroy everything you think you know about learning." And in that moment, Yamato understood his life was about to change. Not because of luck, not because of talent, but because he had finally met the right teacher and was willing to start again from zero, as an empty cup ready to be filled. Part Bashu, the stage where the ego dies. At dawn the next morning, Yamato was already standing in the clearing before the sun even rose. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear, as if some part of him knew that from this moment on, his life would never be the same. The samurai appeared, his gaze steady and unreadable. As though he always saw more than others ever could, he said, "We begin, Shu." Yamato tightened his grip on the wooden sword, expecting to learn powerful strikes or elegant techniques right away. The samurai stepped forward, assumed a stance and said, "Stand exactly, nothing more. No creativity, no questions." Yamato copied the stance, but within seconds the samurai was correcting every tiny detail. The foot angled 2 centimeters off, the knee not opened properly, the shoulder lifted too high, and even the rhythm of his breathing was wrong. 3 seconds in through the nose, hold for 2. 4 seconds out through the mouth, that was it. And they stayed completely still. 1 posture, 10 long agonizing minutes. Yamato's thighs trembled, his calves burned, his back ached, and his mind screamed. Why are we doing something so boring? When do I get to learn real sword techniques? Finally, unable to hold it in, he asked, "Master, when will we practice actual strikes?" The samurai turned his head slowly, his eyes sharp as steel. "You think posture is boring? You think breathing is meaningless? That is exactly why you will never become a samurai if you keep that mindset." His voice was low, calm, but firm. Mastery is not built on exciting moments. It is built on millimeters that ordinary people overlook. The basics you find boring are the foundation of every technique you will ever learn. Yamato fell silent. In that moment, he understood that the lesson wasn't just about the stance. It was about destroying the arrogance he didn't even know he had. Weeks passed, slow and repetitive, no new moves, no flashy forms. Only breath, posture, and simple movements repeated so many times that Yamato felt he might lose his mind. Every evening he walked home frustrated, thinking, "Am I wasting my time?" But his body began telling a different story. The stances that once hurt now felt natural. The breathing that once felt forced now flowed effortlessly. The grip once trembled now felt grounded and alive. Then one day, after 3 months, the master demonstrated a simple horizontal strike and ordered Yamato to repeat it. 1,000 times, Yamato obeyed without complaint. And somewhere around the 400th repetition, something extraordinary happened. His body executed the strike perfectly without a single command from his mind. It was smooth, precise, effortless, like the sword already knew the path before Yamato did. The samurai watched from a distance, a rare smile touching his face. "Did you shoot it?" He approached Yamato and placed a hand on his shoulder. Shu isn't about making you smarter. Shu teaches your body what your mind cannot yet understand. People think repetition is for the weak, but those who refuse repetition are the ones who will forever remain outside the door of mastery. From that day on, Yamato stopped asking why. He simply trained. Trained until the fundamentals lived inside him. Breathing with him, moving with him, becoming a part of him, and in that quiet, monotonous simplicity, the seed of a true master finally began to grow. Part born, the trap of learning forever but never getting better. 6 months had passed since Yamato entered the Shu stage. By then, he had mastered 12 fundamental techniques, so deeply that he could perform them even half asleep. One night, the master suddenly woke him and asked for a vertical strike. Without a second of thought, Yamato's body executed it perfectly, smooth, precise, effortless. But as his skills began to solidify, Yamato noticed something unsettling. During group training, he observed warriors who had far more experience than him, fighters who knew hundreds of techniques, could recite the names of countless ancient forms, and had memorized every kata passed down through the generations, and yet something was missing. Their movements looked correct but lifeless. Their strikes were sharp but disconnected. They possessed knowledge, but not embodiment. They moved, but the movement did not live inside them. One morning, troubled by this thought, Yamato approached his master. "Master," he asked, "why do some warriors who know many techniques still fight worse than me? Someone who only knows 12 basics." For the first time in months, the master smiled. At last, he said, "You've asked the right question." He gestured toward the group of practitioners nearby. They are trapped in what I call the hell of the eternal student. They chase new techniques the way children chase new toys. Every time they learn something, they abandon what came before. They believe variety equals progress. The master picked up a small branch and drew a circle on the ground. They confuse knowing with mastering. They've memorized the map, but they've never walked the path. They collect information yet gain no depth. Their eyes are full of knowledge, but their bodies remain empty. He looked directly at Yamato. "Shu gave your foundation. You obeyed without questioning. You repeated without improvising. You allowed the technique to shape you until it became part of your bones. But that is only the beginning." Then his voice grew quiet, heavier. "Now you are ready to break." Yamato felt his heart skip. "Break what, master? How can I break what you taught me?" The master stood up slowly. "Break does not mean rebellion. It does not mean disrespect. It means understanding so deeply that you can move beyond the surface. It means seeing the principle beneath the form. That is the second stage." "Huh?" He placed a hand on Yamato's shoulder, his voice lowering to a near whisper. "But remember this. Almost everyone stops here. They learn a little, feel confident, and assume they've reached the mountain peak. But they are not masters. They are simply stuck halfway between ignorance and skill." The forest wind fell silent. Yamato felt a doorway opening in his life. The invisible line between being someone who knows a lot and someone who becomes truly exceptional. The master stepped back and said, "You've passed Shu. Now you must walk into her. But do not fall into the illusion that traps the many." Thinking you've arrived when you've only just begun, Yamato tightened his grip around his wooden sword. Deep down, he knew the journey ahead would challenge everything he believed about learning, and he knew this was only the beginning. Part Namha, the dangerous but necessary turning point. After completing Shu, Yamato thought he finally understood what it meant to follow the path of a samurai. But the master made it clear. Shu was only the foundation. The second stage was the turning point that separated those who rise to mastery from those who remain forever average. One afternoon, the master picked up a stick and drew a circle on the ground. "This is Shu," he said. "These are the limits I placed on you. In this stage, you were forbidden to step outside of this circle. No variation, no improvisation, no personal touch. Because only inside this circle can your foundation become unshakable." Then the master turned, his voice sharpening. "But if you stay in this circle forever, you become nothing more than my shadow. A replica. A puppet who repeats but never becomes." Yamato stood frozen. The master continued, "Has not rebellion. Is not rejecting what you've learned. Has breaking limits with understanding. It is the moment when you see what lies beneath the technique, beneath the form, beneath every movement you once memorized." That same afternoon, for the first time in 6 months, the master led Yamato deep into the forest. Waiting there was another man, completely different in presence and style. His posture was tall, his expression sharp, his grip on the sword powerful and fluid. "This," the master said, "is your second teacher. He belongs to a different school. Everything he teaches will contradict what I have taught you." Yamato's heart dropped. "But master, won't that destroy everything I've learned?" The master cut him off. "Yes, if your Shu were weak, you would be ruined. Your techniques would collapse into confusion, and you'd become a messy fighter with no identity. He paused, then placed a steady hand on Yamato's shoulder. But your shoe is deep. Your body remembers what your mind has forgotten. Now you must face contradiction to discover truth. And so the next chapter began. Every morning Yamato trained with his first master. Every afternoon with the second. Everything clashed. The first master taught low stance, economical movement, and patient defense. The second taught high posture, explosive force, and aggressive offense. Even their breathing methods contradicted each other. Yamato felt as if his mind were splitting in two. His mornings said sink downward, his afternoons demanded rise upward. One teacher made him simplify. The other commanded him to unleash everything. He questioned himself. He doubted his path. He feared he would be broken by the contradictions, but every time fear crept in, the master's warning echoed in his mind. Hell is not for the weak, hell is for those who dare to go further than the rest. Then slowly something changed. After 3 months, Yamato began to see what had been hidden from him. Beneath all the contradictions, the opposing methods, beneath the conflicting teachings, were the same universal principles. Both masters were teaching him how to move energy efficiently, how to sense an opponent's intention, how to tune his awareness to the rhythm of combat, how to make the mind quiet enough for the body to act with clarity. Once Yamato grasped the confusion disappeared. Techniques no longer clashed. They no longer fought. They complemented each other. During one training session, Yamato blocked using the first master's style and counterattacked with the second master's explosive technique. The movement was seamless, so natural that even Yamato didn't realize what he had done. Both masters froze. A technique was that. The second master asked. Yamato shook his head. I don't know, my body just did what felt right. The two masters exchanged a knowing smile. I had begun, but the first master immediately added a warning. One that cut deeper than any sword. Most people stop here. They create a few variations, mix a few styles, and think they are already masters. He stepped closer, his voice quiet but razor sharp. But it is still a cage. A bigger, pretty cage, but still a cage. Then he finished with a sentence that Yamato would never forget. You will only reach the final stage, Rai, when you are willing to abandon every technique you have ever learned. Yamato felt his pulse quicken. He knew the most difficult part of his journey was just beginning. Part Saori. When technique disappears and pure instinct takes over, if head is the stage that opens the door to creativity, then Ri is stepping into an entirely different world. A world where technique is no longer technique, where instinct is no longer instinct, and where a person does perform movements but becomes the movement itself. Yamato's first day in Ri began with a surprise. He stopped learning new techniques altogether. The master no longer taught. No instructions. No new forms, footwork, or breathing drills. Instead, the master simply made Yamato fight, day after day, month after year. His opponents constantly change. Strong ones, weak ones, fast ones, reckless attackers, silent defenders. No battle was predictable. No opponent was familiar. In the beginning, Yamato still relied on technique. His mind kept chattering. Now I'll use the defensive stance from the first master, next I'll counter with the explosive strike from the second. Maybe I should switch to technique number 7, but these thoughts slowed him down. While Yamato was still choosing, the opponent had already struck. While Yamato was still analyzing, the opportunity had vanished. That's when he realized the cruel truth of Ri. The more he tried to think about fighting, the worse he fought. 3 years passed like this, a constant battle between instinct and the need to choose. The harder Yamato tried to perform well, the worse he became. The more he tried to recall techniques, the stiffer and slower his movements turned. Many nights he sat alone, staring at his sword on the ground, whispering, "Why isn't the master teaching me anymore? Why only endless battles? Am I improving or falling apart?" Then one day, during a fierce fight against 3 opponents at once, no thoughts, no planning, no next move or which technique, no first master style or second master's counter. Yamato's body simply moved. When an opponent rushed from the left, his body stepped right. Effortlessly, when the one in front attacked, his arm raised the blade without hesitation. There was no choosing, no analyzing, no hesitation. Just pure movements flowed like water. No tension, no force, no anticipation, no fear. And when the fight ended, Yamato stood there, breathing calm and steady, unshaken, unable to recall which techniques he had used. From afar, the master watched, eyes filled with rare joy. He said. Yamato frowned. "But I just fought 3 people." "No," the master replied softly. "Your body fought. You who thinks, worries, decides, was not there. Only natural response existed. That is Ri." The master sat beside him and spoke gently. When you were in Shu, you had to learn every movement one by one. In Ha, you began to see the principles beneath the movements. But in Ri, you no longer use technique. Technique uses you. Then the master explained what ancient samurai had understood for centuries, and what modern neuroscience has now confirmed. At the highest levels of mastery, the brain's conscious decision-making center shuts down. Deeper structures, instinct, embodied memory, intuitive intelligence, take over. At that moment, the skill and the person merge into one. No separation, no effort, no thought, only pure action. And Yamato finally understood why frail old masters could defeat fighters decades younger. They no longer relied on strength or technique. They fought with a unity of mind and body that transcended rules and traditions. As Yamato absorbed this truth, he felt himself stepping into an entirely new chapter. A chapter few people ever reach, not because it's impossible, but because most of humanity quits long before they arrive. Ri, the final stage, but also the beginning of a freedom only true masters ever touch. Part B, the nameless master and the truth about those who truly master anything. Years passed after Yamato reached the stage of Ri. The boy who once watched samurai from afar with nothing but longing had now become a warrior respected across the land. But what drew young men from distant villages to seek him out was not just his skill. It was his presence. A quiet strength, a depth, a calmness no book could teach. Students flocked to him, each carrying ambition, excitement, or sometimes illusions about what mastery truly meant. And almost all of them asked the same question. Master, how many techniques do you know? 300. 1,000. Yamato simply smiled and said, none at all. The students were stunned, thought he was joking. Some believed he was hiding secrets. Some simply couldn't understand. Until one day, a proud and somewhat arrogant young student stepped forward. Master, forgive me, but I don't see how this can be. My previous instructor knew more than 500 techniques. If you claim not to know any, how can you possibly be stronger than him? Yamato did not reply immediately. He stood up, picked up a wooden sword and said, use the best technique you know. Attack me. The young man centered himself, inhaled deeply, and launched forward with a complex technique he had practiced for years, a move he believed no warrior could counter easily. But Yamato did nothing extraordinary, no dramatic stance, no recognizable counter, no special technique, just a slight shift of weight, a tiny adjustment of the foot, a subtle movement barely visible. In the blink of an eye, the young man was on the ground, weapon gone, staring in shock. Master, what technique was that? He asked, breathless. Yamato reached down to help him up. I didn't use a technique, he replied gently. You used a technique with a name, one you've practiced thousands of times. But I simply responded to the moment. The young man looked even more confused. If you didn't use a technique, then how did you defeat me? Yamato looked straight into his eyes and spoke words the student would remember for the rest of his life. You are limited to the 500 moves you know. I am not limited at all. He continued, when you rely on techniques, you are still choosing. You are still trapped inside her. Even if you combine techniques beautifully, but when you reach Ri, you no longer choose a technique. Your body responds with whatever the moment demands. Not from memory, but from total freedom. The courtyard fell silent, not because the student was defeated, but because everyone suddenly understood something deeper. The one who knows many techniques is not the strongest. The one who needs none is the freest. Yamato continued softly. When you cling to technique, you are still trying. When technique disappears, you are synced without forcing. You win without effort. You fight without fighting. Another student asked hesitantly, Master, when will we reach such a stage? Yamato smiled, the gentle smile of someone who had walked a very long road. When you stop believing that technique is what makes you strong, when mind, breath, and body move together without conflict. When you stop thinking and simply respond. The students sat quietly, no more questions, because they now understood. Mastery is not about the number of techniques you know. It is about how deeply you understand the essence beneath them. Only those who move through Shu, go beyond Ha, and step into Ri ever understand what it means to have no technique yet infinite technique. Part universal path. Shuhari is not just for samurai. Yamato's journey is not merely about swords, combat, or the discipline of ancient warriors. It is the journey of all of us, people trying to master a skill, change ourselves, or reach a new level in any area of life. Because Shuhari isn't simply a training system from feudal Japan. It is the blueprint of deep learning, the model of mastery, the natural law that anyone must follow if they want to become truly great at something. Whether you want to learn gyud or cooking or build a business, you are walking the same path Yamato once walked. Shu. Follow. You begin by copying, by following someone who came before you, by setting your ego aside and practicing the basics, even when they feel boring, slow, repetitive, and discouraging. Today, many people don't want Shu. They want creative freedom from day one. But the truth is, creativity without foundation is just chowsa. Break and understand. Once your foundation is strong, you begin to ask why. You no longer just follow to understand. You see principles. You see connections. You see how to adjust things to fit who you are. This is the stage where most people mistakenly believe in already good enough. But in reality, that is only beginning of true understanding. Transcendent. Then, like Yamato, you reach a point where you no longer need the technique. No formulas, no memorization, no checking the rulebook. You simply do it. A musician in Re does press keys by theory. Music flows through them like a river. A programmer in Re does think through every line. Solutions appear before they consciously form. An entrepreneur in Re no longer follows fixed strategies. They sense the market's flow and read human needs like intuition. That's not luck, not as Re. The peak of Shuhari, and this is what makes the path so profound. Shuhari has never changed. Only people forget it exists. Hundreds of years ago, samurai understood this. Thousands of years ago, Zen masters lived by it. Today, neuroscientists confirm it. To master anything, you must move from obedience standing. Transcendence. No skipping steps, no shortcuts, no fast lanes. And when you look back at life, you see that every true master, artists, legionnaires, entrepreneurs, walk the same sequence. Shu grounds you, Ha elevates you, Re frees you. Yamato's story is simply a mirror reminding us, whatever you're trying to learn in life, the ancient path is still the most accurate one. Shuhari is not a theory, is the essence of learning, and the essence of growth. Part Chin. When life forces you to start over, Shuhari in times of collapse. Not everyone begins the Shuhari journey by choice. Some begin out of passion, some out of curiosity, but many of us, at one point in life, begin because life leaves us no other option. When you lose a job, when your business collapses, when a relationship falls apart, when your future suddenly becomes blurry and you find yourself back at the starting line. Even though you never wanted to be there, in these rock-bottom moments, Shuhari stops being a concept. It becomes the rope you hold onto to rebuild yourself, because only when you lose everything do you truly learn again from the beginning. Shu starting again with humility. When you fail, life forces you return to the basics. You learn to stand up again. You learn to move slowly. You learn to take small steps without rushing. Things that once felt easy now feel heavy. Tasks you used to overlook must now be redone with care. But this difficult Shu phase, the pain, the slowness, the frustration, is exactly where the foundation of a stronger version of you is rebuilt. Understanding what you once ignored. After you've lost enough, you begin to see life with different eyes. You understand why things collapsed. You finally notice lessons you never paid attention to before. You see clearly the mistakes in your work. You recognize the things you neglected in your relationships. You realize you were not incapable. You simply did understand the path you were walking. In real life is the beginning of true maturity. Rising above your former self, and then one day, after you've risen, after you've learned deeply, after your heart becomes stronger, you enter without even realizing it. You make decisions more precisely. You act more calmly. You see problems more broadly. You no longer panic during crises. You no longer fear starting over. Do you know why? Because you are no longer who you used to be. You have transcended your former self. That is the Re of life. Shuhari and failure is a form of rebirth. No one wants to collapse. No one wants to lose. But sometimes the cracks are the doorway to your truest self. When you rise again after failure, you no longer learn to be good. You learn because you finally understand. Life rewards those who are humble enough to start from zero, patient enough to learn deeply, and brave enough to surpass who they once were. That is Shuhari. Not only in martial arts, but in the journey of being human. Part Mui. Shuhari and the art of moving at the right speed in life. When people pursue mastery in any skill, they often believe the key is trying harder, working faster, learning quicker. But one of the most important lessons Shuhari teaches us is this: every stage of life has its own natural pace, and you cannot force yourself to move faster than what you're ready for. There are moments in your growth journey when you must go slow, painfully slow, so slow that it feels like you're not moving at all. But in truth, you're building things the eye cannot see. Shu. The pace of foundation Shu is like clearing land to build a house. No one sees anything impressive. You dig, you level the ground, you drive stakes, you lay the base. All you get is mud on your face and an etching back. But think about it. What house can stand tall if its foundation isn't done carefully? Shu is the stage where you must move slower than everyone else. While others show off quick results, you repeat a simple motion over and over until it becomes instinct. While others appear to be progressing, you're still practicing fundamentals year after year. But don't be discouraged. No one can shortcut the foundation and still build something lasting. At the pace of awakening one day, you finally understand, oh, so this is why I had to move slowly for so long. You begin to move faster not because you force yourself to speed up, but because understanding makes you lighter. You start connecting pieces that once felt unrelated. You see why things are done a certain way, and why your old approach didn't work. The pace of is the pace of awareness. It's not rushed, but it's confident. Not hurried, but deeply clear. The pace of freedom. By the time you reach speed is no longer measured by fast or slow. You simply move according to your own rhythm, the rhythm of clarity. To others, it may look like you're advancing rapidly, but you feel no rush at all, because the pace of is the pace of nature itself. Like water, unhurried yet able to shape everything it touches, like wind. Effortless yet capable of shifting an entire sky. And this is what makes Shuhari remarkable. What matters is not speed, but the rhythm of learning. Those who move too fast too soon will stumble. Those who move slowly at the right moment will go far. We live in a time of impatience. Everyone wants instant results, instant skill, instant success. But every true master, artist, athlete, and entrepreneur understands, life doesn't reward those who rush. Life rewards those who move at the right speed. So if you feel slow right now, be patient. Maybe that is exactly the pace life wants you to move, so you can become the strongest version of yourself. Shuhari doesn't teach you to run fast. Shuhari teaches you to move in harmony. And when you move in the right rhythm, you don't just reach your destination. You reach it with peace in your heart. Part Muimot. Shuhari and the art of moving at the right speed in life. When people pursue mastery in any skill, they often believe the key is trying harder, working faster, learning quicker. But one of the most important lessons Shuhari teaches us is this: every stage of life has its own natural pace, and you cannot force yourself to move faster than what you're ready for. There are moments in your growth journey when you must go slow, painfully slow, so slow that it feels like you're not moving at all. But in truth, you're building things the eye cannot see. The pace of foundation is like clearing land to build a house. No one sees anything impressive. You dig, you level the ground, you drive stakes, you lay the base. All you get is mud on your face and an etching back. But think about it. What house can stand tall if its foundation isn't done carefully? Is the stage where you must move slower than everyone else. While others show off quick results, you repeat a simple motion over and over until it becomes instinct. While others appear to be progressing, you're still practicing fundamentals year after year. But don't be discouraged. No one can shortcut the foundation and still build something lasting. At the pace of awakening one day, you finally understand, oh, so this is why I had to move slowly for so long. You begin to move faster not because you force yourself to speed up, but because understanding makes you lighter. You start connecting pieces that once felt unrelated. You see why things are done a certain way, and why your old approach didn't work. The pace of is the pace of awareness. It's not rushed, but it's confident. Not hurried, but deeply clear. The pace of freedom. By the time you reach speed is no longer measured by fast or slow. You simply move according to your own rhythm, the rhythm of clarity. To others, it may look like you're advancing rapidly, but you feel no rush at all, because the pace of is the pace of nature itself. Like water, unhurried yet able to shape everything it touches, like wind. Effortless yet capable of shifting an entire sky. And this is what makes Shuhari remarkable. What matters is not speed, but the rhythm of learning. Those who move too fast too soon will stumble. Those who move slowly at the right moment will go far. We live in a time of impatience. Everyone wants instant results, instant skill, instant success. But every true master, artist, athlete, and entrepreneur understands, life doesn't reward those who rush. Life rewards those who move at the right speed. So if you feel slow right now, be patient. Maybe that is exactly the pace life wants you to move, so you can become the strongest version of yourself. Shuhari doesn't teach you to run fast. Shuhari teaches you to move in harmony. And when you move in the right rhythm, you don't just reach your destination. You reach it with peace in your heart. When you look back at the entire Shuhari journey, you'll realize a simple truth that can reshape your entire life. Mastery isn't built on talent. It's built on discipline, humility, and the persistence to keep going when others quit. In Shu, you learn to set your ego aside. In Ha, you learn to open your eyes. In Ri, you learn to live in your fullest form, free, calm, and unbothered by comparison. And then you understand, Every skill you pursue deeply is quietly shaping the person within you. You don't just get better, you become someone deeper, stronger. That is the real reward of this path. The journey always begins as a lonely road. No applause, no validation. No one sees the thousands of boring repetitions you go through, but if you stay long enough, one day people will look at you and say, "He's so talented, she's so gifted, this person is naturally brilliant." They will never know that the only gift you ever had is simply the willingness to do what everyone else gave up on. Shuhari is not just a learning system. It is a way of becoming, a way for an ordinary person to grow into someone admirable, respected, and truly capable. Yes, you can walk this path all the way to the end if today you choose to take the first step. If you made it this far, you are not a typical viewer. You belong to the very small group of people who genuinely want to change themselves, and that already sets you apart from From of the world. Thank you for spending your time with this video. Keep going, choose one skill. Enter Shu, and one day when you look back, you won't believe you were ever the same person. I'll see you in the next video on life philosophy. Wishing you a steady, bright, and transformative journey ahead.